Hello, my name is Sam Mater, and today I'm going to talk about the Haitian Revolution. So, the Haitian Revolution starts in a colony under French rule called Saint Domingue. Saint Domingue is an island in the Caribbean where modern day Haiti is, right next to the Dominican Republic. Saint Domingue was home of many pirates. The colony made money by selling leather and boucan, or smoked beef. In the mid 1600s, the people living there started to run low on beef and turned to robbing Spanish ships. After that, the pirates stopped being pirates and settled on the island. Many people invested in sugar made by slaves and became wealthy. Saint Domingue became the richest colony in the world. It produced 40% of Europe's sugar and 60% of Europe's coffee. Coffee and sugar were highly valuable commodities, and this is how the colony became so wealthy. These products were made by slaves. In Saint Domingue, slavery was brutal. Slavery was so important in the colony that by the late 1700s, more than 40,000 slaves were imported every year. This is more than the white population on the island. Slaves made up 90% of the population. Each plantation was large, with over 200 slaves working there. Saint Domingue's population was in four main groups: the Grand Blancs, the Petit Blancs, the gens de couleur libres, and the slaves. The first group is the Grand Blancs. The Grand Blancs were the rich white people. They got to own slaves. They were very, very wealthy and thought they were above everyone else in the colony. The second group is the Petit Blancs. The Petit Blancs were the poor whites. They did not own slaves and were not wealthy. They worked as artisans and craftspeople or specialized in something like running a hotel or a tavern or making shoes. So they did not make a lot of money. The third of four groups was the gens de couleur libres. They were the free people of African descent. There were nearly as many gens de couleur libres as there were Grand Blancs, so both of these groups were very important to the island. Some of them were very, very wealthy and owned slaves like the Grand Blancs, and some were not as wealthy with jobs like Petit Blancs. The last group are the slaves. As I mentioned earlier, slavery on the colony was brutal. Slaves made up 90% of all the population. They would work 17 hours a day until death. So in 1789, all of these groups had a problem or something to complain about. The slaves disliked being slaves and how brutal it was. The free people of color, or gens de couleur libres, thought they should be treated the same as white people, especially the wealthy ones, because they both had the same amount of money. The poor white people, or Petit Blancs, thought they should be above rich black people because white and black people should not be equal. The rich whites, or Grand Blancs, were mad because they wanted to have a say in the French government like the rich whites in France. They wanted to have a say so they could influence the government's decision about trade laws and improving conditions for slaves. Out of all of these, the slaves were definitely the worst off, but the Petit Blancs thought they were the worst off. In 1789, France creates the Declaration of the Rights of the Man and of the Citizen, or the Doromac. In it, it says, "Men are born free and remain equal in rights." Each of the four groups of people interpreted this differently to benefit themselves. The Petit Blancs thought they were the most oppressed people in Saint Domingue because they couldn't own slaves. They wanted to become independent so they could institute a democracy where everyone had a voice, except for the slaves. In 1791, the Petit Blancs take the city of Port-au-Prince, so the French government sends troops to Saint Domingue. Equality is becoming more popular in France, so they give citizenship to all free men of color. Revolt breaks out among the slaves. The leader of this revolt was called Toussaint Louverture, a former slave. Louverture became an officer in the Spanish military because the Spanish wanted to weaken the French. In 1793, the British invade Saint Domingue, and in 1794, the French realized they can't fight British, France, and the slaves. They free the slaves. Louverture switches sides back to the French and helps them win against the Spanish and the British. In 1802, Louverture is arrested and dies in prison. When the French try to take the guns of the people in Saint Domingue, a war starts and the French lose. This is because one reason of this is because there was yellow fever in Saint Domingue, which killed many French soldiers, so they had the advantage of disease. The island then becomes independent in 1804 and renamed to Haiti. So, was the revolution a success? Well, one argument is that it is a success because Haiti becomes independent from France and there is no more slavery, so they kind of achieved their goal in that way. However, I think it was a failure because Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the world now because of their debt to France. Haiti is so poor that 58.6% of Haitians live under the global poverty line, and 24.7% of Haitians live under the extreme poverty line. So overall, the revolution was not a success because while it did become independent from France, Haiti is now the 20th poorest country in the world. So I don't think it was worth it for how poor they became. So how does the Haitian Revolution relate to today? Well, similar to the Haitian Revolution, one of Spain's wealthiest regions, Catalonia, is trying to become independent from Spain. This could be very similar to Haiti becoming independent because they both start as a wealthy region, and if they become independent, Catalonia could also become a very poor country.